Hi, I'm Roger Dalma, Oshawa real estate broker, but more importantly, this case, a proud member of the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce and the Durham Region Association of Realtors, who are hosting Colin Carrie, candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada in the Oshawa riding. Welcome, Canada. Welcome, Colin. Thank you for your willingness to inform the members of our associations and, of course, the viewers watching this on Rogers TV. Are you ready?
You betcha, Roger, and thank you very much for you and your team doing this. This is a great idea.
We're glad to give you the opportunity to share your views on the issues that affect residents of our great city. First question, Colin, is how does your party intend to support first-time homebuyers and new Canadians across this country who are struggling to find housing that meets their needs?
Well, first of all, Roger, excellent question. This is one of the things that is being brought up at the door consistently. I'm happy to tell everyone here in Oshawa that our party has committed to building over 1 million homes in the next 3 years to increase the housing supply and slow the rapid increase in housing prices. As you know, right now in Canada, there's a huge supply problem. So we need to increase that any way we can. We're also going to review the federal government's real estate holdings because the federal government is actually the biggest real estate holder in the country. So I believe there's 37,000 buildings. And what we'd like to do is release about 15% of those for housing while improving the federal lands initiative. So there's a few things we can do there, just the government wise, but we want to incentivize developers as well by incentivizing them to actually get involved. So in other words, get the market involved to encourage Canadians to invest in rental housing by extending the ability to defer their capital gains tax when selling a rental property and reinvesting in rental housing, something that is currently excluded, and exploring converted unneeded office space into housing. And we're seeing as more and more people, Roger, are working from home. We think this market is going to increase as well. So we're there to help.
Thank you. Our second question, this one actually comes from the Chamber. As we come through COVID, retail and hospitality industries are having difficulty attracting and hiring staff. What would your party do to address this pressing issue?
Again, another really important issue because what we're seeing, there's certain industries that are having a hard time getting back, and you've nailed it. The retail, hospitality are two sectors that we need to get back on track as soon as possible. So as we compassionately reduce the COVID emergency measures, what we need to do is increase the support for these workers. So what we are advocating for is to institute something called the Main Street Business Loan, which would provide loans up to $200,000 to help small business and medium businesses in hospitality, retail, and tourism get back on their feet again. And Roger, what we're proposing is allowing up to 25% of that to be forgiven. So right now, some of these businesses can apply for up to $60,000. And what we've realized by consulting with experts in this industry, it's just not enough. So we want to make sure that the tourism sector and the hospitality sectors make their way through the startup of our economy. And this is one of the best ways to do it.
Thank you. And now from the realtors. The pandemic has forced governments to run large deficits. Canadians are concerned that these deficits will lead to future tax increases. Realtors and homeowners are especially concerned that a future federal government will be tempted to reduce or eliminate the capital gains exemption on our personal residences. Will you commit today to protecting and defending the capital gains exemption for Canadian homeowners?
Yes, absolutely, Roger. We are committed to maintaining this exemption. We've heard throughout this campaign, some of the other candidates and the other parties actually saying that this is something that they're going to need to do. One of the other parties, the Liberal Party, actually put an interesting taxation onto our homes. This is something that many people at the doors, this is sacred for them. Not everybody has a pension, Roger, and what they see is they work hard their entire lives and they put their investment into their home, and they expect when they sell it, that capital increase is going to be available for them to live out the rest of their lives. So we really need to make sure that we protect this, and we are the party that says, yes, we are going to protect that for Canadians.
Thank you. From the Oshawa Chamber, small and medium enterprises have experienced much COVID-related hardship over the past 18 months. How do you plan to assist these businesses in their recovery?
That, and I'm hearing that at the door as well, Roger. So what we've done is extensive consultation, and we've come up with three main initiatives that will help. One is the Canada Jobs Surge Plan. And what we are proposing as our economy ramps up, we are going to pay up to 50% of the salary of new hires for 6 months following the end of the CEWS. Canadian Investment Accelerator, we're going to get companies spending money and creating jobs by providing a 5% investment tax credit for any capital investment made in 2022 and 2023. And with the first 25,000 of that, Roger, to be refundable for small businesses. And the third thing I did mention in a previous answer, the Rebuild Main Street tax credit. Now, for this proposal, it would be providing 25% tax credit for amounts up to $100,000 that Canadians personally invest in small businesses over the next 2 years to get money flowing into Main Street businesses and create jobs. What we've seen through studying and talking to stakeholders and experts, there is capital out there, Roger. There are people that have been able to stock away a certain amount of money over this pandemic. And what we'd like to do is give them ways that they can free it up and get the entrepreneurial spirit going again, because small business is actually what drives our economy. We can't be crushing them. We need to support them.
Thank you. Again, from your Durham Realtors, real estate, as you may well know, real estate is regulated at a provincial level in Canada. One of the federal election proposals that we have heard floated over the last few weeks was to end what some call blind bidding in real estate sales by banning this practice through the Criminal Code of Canada. Would you continue to support consumers' choice in how Canadians sell their homes?
Absolutely. When I heard this proposal, Roger, it was bizarre. This was the Liberal Party that floated this. And I know they've been scrambling for different ideas, but this one's got to be the most bizarre. By using the criminal code to enforce this, there are legitimate reasons why Canadians may buy a home and then have to sell it within a year. And we're seeing that actually right here in Oshawa, whether it's somebody who's in the military or paramilitary that gets transferred, somebody because of their job needs to get moved. The intention is to stay in the community, but they're forced to sell it. So my question to the Liberals is, who are they going to put in jail? Are they going to be putting the real estate agents in jail, or are they actually going to be putting the homeowners in jail? By using this heavy-handed approach, it's going to de-incentivize people to take the chance to invest in real estate. And absolutely, we're not going to be using any type of heavy-handed measures like the Liberal government is doing in a bunch of different initiatives in this election. We think that consumers and homeowners do have the right to sell their home the way that they desire to do so.
Thank you. Again, from the Chamber, the Pickering Airport has been a long outstanding issue in Durham region. The ability to move goods and people through an international airport in the east end of the GTA would create growth in our city and our region's economy. Do you support an airport being built on the long-held Pickering federal lands?
Absolutely, Roger. When I was parliamentary secretary to the Minister of the Environment, I was actually, one of my files I was in charge of is creating the Rouge Urban National Park. And because those lands were so extensive, what the plan is to have a very good buffer zone around the airport, so we would be able to move forward with the airport construction. Unfortunately, the Liberals have stopped that initiative. As you know, there's been an economic downturn, and this actually, the moving forward with the Pickering Airport initiative would really stimulate job creation. Some estimates up to 50,000 jobs, Roger, for this one project alone. And if you take a look at our community here in Oshawa, We have our own Oshawa Airport, which want to be very good neighbors and part of our community. I did a survey which over 1,500 people responded to, and there's some challenges with noise. Imagine if we had different options in our community so that we could have the smallest airports working with the larger airports, so that we could have a great network along the GTA and allow Oshawa to be that central transportation hub that many businesses are looking for when they invest in Durham region. So we're absolutely in favor of that project moving forward.
Thank you. We're going to speak about two existing federal programs right now. Will your party continue to support homeownership initiatives such as the Home Buyers Plan and the First Time Home Buyers Initiative?
That's a really good question too. And some of your viewers may not know what the Home Buyers Plan is, but that's where you can actually utilize your RSPs to get into the market. And we think that's a great plan. I think that was one of the plans actually our government brought in. So it's been working very well getting people into the market. One of the challenges, though, you mentioned the other one, the First Time Home Buyers Initiative. We've heard a lot of complaints about how that works. The worry with this one, Roger, the Liberals brought this idea that they would allow homeowners to partner with the federal government to be a partner in their own personal home. And I believe since it was initiated, it was only a couple thousand people have actually taken part of it. And imagine having to give up some of your equity to the federal government. It's not a good program. It's not something that has been uptaken. There's not a lot of uptake from Canadians. So that's one that we would definitely have to review.
Thank you. Oshawa, like many cities across Canada, has a growing opioid crisis, which when combined with COVID, has really harmed the already vulnerable members of our community. This seems especially evident in Oshawa's downtown. It's also hurting our business community. If elected, what would your party do to battle this growing challenge?
That, Roger, and again, thank you guys for that question. This is one that's near and dear to my heart, not only from a personal standpoint, but as you know, I chose to locate my office right in downtown Oshawa. And these are problems that are growing. And with the COVID crisis, it seems to be growing more and more and more. So as a compassionate community, we really do have to do more. I know we've had tours down there with Regional Chair Henry, the mayor, to make them aware of it, but the federal government has to step up, and unfortunately the Trudeau Liberals haven't. So part of our platform, we have 5 pillars. One is for mental health and addiction. And I'm very proud to say that I had some input into that. And what we've decided for our platform, we're going to be investing $325 million over the next 3 years to create 1,000 residential drug treatment beds and build 50 recovery community centers across the country. Roger, this will give spaces for those who suffer from addiction, but also their families who support them, and those who have recovered where they can get help. They need to support each other. The current approach by the Liberals really, is a Band-Aid approach. We need to give people paths to recovery, and our program is acknowledging that. And I'm very proud to say that we will be the first government in Canada to put such an initiative into place.
Okay, coming down to our last few questions, Colin. Access to affordable rental housing is a growing concern. Particularly for millennials and newcomers. How would your party increase the supply of affordable rental units in Oshawa and, of course, in Durham and across this country?
Again, Roger, at the door, we're hearing this over and over again. People concerned about lack of housing. And as you are quite aware, and the Chamber's quite aware, this will take partnership ideas with our municipalities to streamline different regulatory challenges that we do have, but we would like to see a program that enhances the viability. And we're going to be using the Community Land Trust for affordable housing by creating an incentive for corporations and private landowners to donate property to land trusts for the development of affordable housing. This procedure in particular will mirror that which exists for donating land to ecological reserves. So the idea here is to incentivize people to make that land available. I was actually talking to a developer 2 days ago, And that's what he said the biggest problem is. They need that real estate to be able to build affordable homes. And as I said in a previous answer, we have committed as the federal government to take a look at the real estate holdings of the federal government to make sure that we can convert those to people who need affordable and reasonable housing in all of our communities, particularly here in Oshawa and Durham region.
Thank you. Environmentally friendly transit would help reduce our carbon output in the GTA. Do you support the GO train expansion through the east end of Oshawa and into Clarington?
Absolutely. And I see this as an essential increase in the infrastructure that we have in our community. As you know, Roger, one of the things I'm most proud of is bringing investment to our community, whether that's been down at the Port of Oshawa, through our airport, our 2400 series highways, the via rails, the two different rails, and of course our investments in the university and the college. And this piggybacks on those initiatives as we've worked through the years to transform Oshawa's economy. As you know, when you and I were younger, we really were a one industry town. And one of the things I'm very proud of is my support of these infrastructure initiatives. And one of the things that this will allow us to do as well is increase the density of housing along this line. If we talked to the previous question about affordable rental, by having this move through Oshawa to Clarington, imagine the opportunities now that people, instead of having to live downtown Toronto, they can commute in a much easier fashion back and forth to get that affordable rental and affordable housing here, right here in our community, one of the greatest communities in the country to work and raise our families. By having this GO train instituted, that piece of infrastructure, it's going to be a real plus for our community.
Thank you, Colin. We had a few questions left here, but I'm going to pick one in the interest of timing. What are your thoughts on the timing of this election? And we'll look for a short answer from you on that.
You know what, I'll try to be as quickly as I can with that. But at the doors, Roger, this is the number one thing. Canadians are basically saying, why are we having this election now? Roger, you're aware we actually voted not to have this election right now until after the pandemic. Mr. Trudeau saw the numbers. He thought he could get a majority out of it. That's why we're having it. It's more like an ego election than one we really have to do. We've been committed with the opposition parties to work with the government, as we should, through this emergency pandemic. And most people thought we would be able to make it past. Unfortunately, we're going to deal with it, and we're going to give them a run for those seats, believe me.
Colin, last question is, how can good people of Oshawa reach out to you and support your campaign if that's what they wish to do?
That they can go to colincarrie.ca, or they can give us a call right here at the campaign office, which is located at the corner of Stevenson and Bond, right across the street on the west side of Stevenson, across from the Oshawa Center, or they can give us a call at 905-721-9022. Again, 905-721-9022. And I want to thank everyone for listening to these very important answers. And Roger, I'd like to thank you and your team for putting this together for the people of Oshawa at this very unusual time.
Well, and it's our opportunity to say thank you, Colin Carrie, Conservative Party of Canada candidate for the Oshawa riding, for spending a few minutes informing the members of both the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, the Durham Region Realtor Association of Realtors, and of course the viewers watching this on Rogers TV Durham. I want to also say thank you to Nancy Shaw, the recently retired CEO, and Jason King, the freshly minted CEO of the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, and Wendy Giroux, the CEO of the Durham Region Association of Realtors, for doing all the planning to help make this segment possible, and of course to Rogers TV Durham for your support and coverage. So for now, we will say bye, Colin, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Roger. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Hi, I'm Roger Bellman, Oshawa real estate broker, but more importantly, in this case, a proud member of both the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce and the Durham Region Association of Realtors, who are the hosts for this question and answer time with Shailene Panylo, New Democratic Party candidate for the Oshawa riding. Welcome, Shailene.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
We are glad to. Are you ready to answer some questions from the Chamber and your local realtors?
I am. I'm so excited.
Perfect. Let's go. The first question that we have is, how does your party intend to support first-time home buyers and new Canadians across this country who are struggling to find housing that meets their needs?
Great question. So first and foremost, we understand, especially being here from Oshawa, that there is a significant need for new housing to be built, but also to make it more accessible for people to enter the housing market. So I guess for a few specifics here, we have committed to waiving the GST, HST portion of new construction on affordable units, provide fast start funds for municipalities like Oshawa that so desperately need access to renovate empty buildings as well as update and build new housing here. And our goal is to build at least 500,000 new units over the next decade. So we need to do this for the long term, but in the short term, we also need to provide immediate relief for renters, which is something that we're committed to do. And then reintroduce 30-year mortgage terms for CMHC insured mortgages on entry-level homes for people that are first-time home buyers trying to enter the market. We'll double the home buyer's tax credit to $1,500 as well, because we understand that people do want to enter the market and it's a really difficult time right now. I will also say, as someone who is looking at these options myself, co-housing and co-mortgages have become something that we've been talking quite a lot about. And to offer this and to ease financing by offering CMHC-backed co-ownership mortgages for folks who are looking to maybe buy a home or enter the market with friends, with family members, and participate in the housing market in a way that wouldn't be possible by themselves. We will also be implementing a 20% foreign wealth tax, which foreign buyers tax, my apologies, that I think is really critical because we've seen, especially in larger cities where we've had more time to look at the impacts, like Vancouver, for instance, or Toronto even, that foreign buyers are buying real estate and oftentimes they're sitting empty. And so there are folks here from our communities that are looking for good housing options, places to rent, safe places to live. And we cannot continue to have viable housing units sit empty. And so these are a couple of ways that we're looking to ease into or help folks ease into a very hot housing market, but also try to incentivize people into ownership because it is important and it does offer more financial freedom than the renting option. We have to do our part to make it more accessible for people.
Thank you. The second question comes from our Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, and that is, as we come through COVID, retail and hospitality industries are having difficulty attracting and hiring staff. What would your party do to address this issue?
This is a great question. So first and foremost, I do want to say that what we are seeing here is a two-pronged issue. We're seeing an issue with folks who are not being paid a living wage. And what that means is when you're not paid a living wage, when you're not having access to benefits and job security, especially in such a precarious time that we have seen throughout COVID, is that people will try to find other better paying jobs or not want to risk, contracting COVID or unsafe working conditions or not healthy working conditions either. And we've seen an increase in people telling their stories about workplaces that they've stayed in for far too long because they haven't had any other option. And as we've rolled out the CERB, the CESB, and the CRB during COVID, we've seen folks sort of on both sides of that argument saying people don't want to work and people saying we don't want to work in bad conditions. So I think an important part of this is ensuring that we are helping relieve people's financial burdens as small business owners so that they can pay their employees living wages and offer benefits, but that they aren't paying the bulk of this recovery that we have seen and that frankly has happened for a long time now. We've seen working folks and small businesses carry the burden of any and all financial difficulties we've had in the past 10, 15 years. And so something has to change. So for us, our plans for pharmacare, dental care, mental health care, in an effort to take financial burden off of small businesses is really important because it offers employees benefits without necessarily putting that onto small businesses. It allows employers who can't otherwise offer that the option to compete with larger businesses that can offer workers those supplemental benefits. And as well as our national childcare plan is really important for allowing people to get back to work, right? Opening up opportunity for folks to return to the workforce if they would like to, because they were forced to leave during COVID. So this, along with ensuring that taxes for small businesses are not going to increase, it all has to be looked at as a much larger issue where you have folks that need a living wage, businesses that need the support who have been forced to shutter for over a year now. And so it's about finding that balance, continuing to support small businesses with wage subsidies until they are in better financial situations, and ensuring that employees have benefits, healthcare, and a living wage.
Thank you. Again, from your local Durham realtors, the pandemic has forced governments to run large deficits. Canadians are concerned that these deficits will lead to future tax increases. Of course, realtors and homeowners are concerned that a future federal government will be tempted to reduce or eliminate the capital gains exemption on personal residences. Will you commit today to protecting and defending the capital gains exemption for Canadian homeowners?
Yes, so we have committed. Sorry, I think my camera just shook a little bit. We have committed to ensuring that we actually increase capital gains taxes for folks not on primary residences. So personal residences will not be taxed. And this is something that we really, really want to drive home for folks. Previously, the rate was decreased from 75 to 50%. We want to increase that back to 75% on folks that are buying homes in order to flip them. So at no point will this change in our platform at any point impact Canadian home buyers who are trying to get in the market, who are selling their primary residence, or if they are part of a business that actually works to buy homes, flip them, and then sell them. That will not impact this either because that's covered under another tax system. So we will commit to protecting and defending the capital gains exemption for Canadian homeowners on their personal residences and primary residences.
Thank you. Again, from the Oshawa Chamber, small and medium enterprises have experienced much COVID-related hardship over the past 18 months. How do you plan to assist these businesses in their recovery?
Of course. So though I did touch on a little bit of it, I'd like to kind of shorten and keep it short and sweet for this one. Small and medium businesses have suffered greatly. We know this, we see it, we acknowledge it. And so what that means is we cannot have these folks carrying the burden of this economic recovery. That is why all of our costing that has now been approved and endorsed by numerous solidarity partners across Canada, but more importantly, with receipts from the Parliamentary Budget Officer, include wealth taxes and corporate taxes for very large corporations, and this would not include small and medium businesses. So what that means is that their tax rates will stay the same. They will still have access to programs like our wage subsidies and financial supports and loans and grants from the federal government that they need in order to get out of this COVID recovery until they are in a place where they are either comparable or just slightly ahead of where they were ahead of the prior to the pandemic. So this is really important so that we're not pulling the plug on supports before people have actually gotten back on their feet. We know that small and medium-sized businesses are some of the #1 employers in our local economies, as well as provide jobs, opportunity, and places to shop, especially downtown here in Oshawa. So these folks cannot carry the burden. We don't want them to carry the burden. So it's going to take a number of measures, including the tax exemptions and the freezes for these folks, including the wage subsidies, and including encouragement from all of us to continue to shop local, support local, and ensure that workers, business owners, and our community members can continue to have access to the small businesses that keep our local economies going.
Thank you. Shailene, we have about 7 minutes left, so we'll try and move through a few of these questions. Real estate is regulated at the provincial level in Canada. One of the federal election proposals that we have heard floated in the last few weeks was to end what some call blind bidding in real estate sales. The proposal was to ban this practice through the Criminal Code of Canada. Would you continue to support the consumer's choice in how they sell their homes in Canada?
So we don't have a specific policy on blind bidding, but the other measures that we briefly talked about that I'll briefly mention here, we do think will create more houses that people can actually afford. And by increasing that opportunity and access, we would hope to see a decrease in this practice. However, building 500 units of affordable housing, increasing access for first-time home buyers, and giving support for renters, as well as, trying to level the playing field a little bit between regular buyers who've saved up for years versus billion-dollar companies who can scoop up investments, and properties with cash in hand. There has to be policies in place that level the playing field for these folks. So that's what we've committed to, though we don't have a specific policy on blind bidding itself.
Thank you. Again, from the Oshawa Chamber, the Pickering Airport has been a long outstanding issue in Durham region. The ability to move goods and people through an international airport on the east side of the GTA would create growth, jobs and growth in our city and region's economy. Do you support an airport being built on the long-held Pickering federal lands?
So this continues to be a very controversial topic for our region. And as someone that is from Oshawa, I do not want to speak over any voices from and within Pickering. Though I'm not particularly against or opposed to transit options that make our region more accessible for folks, I do recognize there are climate, noise, infrastructure concerns that folks have had. And so I'm in favor of us using federal lands that we're contemplating selling or repurposing. That should be done by the communities at the community level with their blessing, so to speak. But also, I think for our sake, affordable housing is something that we are really looking at federally, and that I would like to see us maybe explore other options for those lands, as well as I know other activists and folks speaking on this issue from Pickering have been really talking about and encouraging us to do. So I'm open to exploring other options, but as someone that is Oshawa, I would not want to speak over or for anyone from Pickering, but I'm open to what the community members want and what they believe is best for this use of land.
Okay, last few questions here. Will your party continue to support homeownership initiatives such as the existing federal home buyers plan and the first time home buyers initiative?
Yes, we will.
That's short and sweet. Thank you.
Short and sweet.
This next question is really important to this community and communities across our country. Oshawa, like many cities across Canada, has a growing opioid crisis, which when combined with COVID has really harmed an already vulnerable population within our community. This seems especially evident in Oshawa's downtown. It's also hurting our business community. If elected, what would your party do to battle this growing crisis?
Absolutely. So I'll be quick with this answer. We recognize that we have to be taking an empathy first approach and meeting folks where they're at. And that's really important to me as someone who grew up here. I would like to see that in our plan for head to toe, fully universal healthcare, this includes mental health care, addictions care, pharmacare, dental care, and so much more. And this has to be included because if we're talking about providing housing for folks, which we know is a social determinant of health, and we're talking about providing truly universal health care, it's about making sure that we are meeting the bare necessity needs of folks who are facing addiction and mental health challenges in our downtown core, who remain unhoused or underhoused, and that we're building social safety nets that protect people who are just on the cusp of potentially losing their own homes and finding themselves in a precarious situation on the streets as well. This has to go hand in hand with providing opportunities of support. It also is very important that when we are thinking of supporting these folks, we are raising the floor as a whole. So this includes for us a guaranteed livable basic income so that we can help folks get back on their feet, but no one has to choose between housing and food, rent, or perhaps, upgrading their education, so on and so forth, because we find ourselves very shaken by COVID. And it's really, really emphasized the holes in our system that we have, and we cannot continue to let people fall through them. So for us, facing the opioid crisis as a healthcare issue first is going to be critical. House people, get them the help that they need without barriers, and ensure that people have a financial social safety net to ensure that they don't end up in precarious situations again and again.
Okay, Shailene, we're down to about a minute, but there's a couple of questions I just want to ask you. Access to affordable rental housing is a growing concern, particularly for millennials and newcomers. How would your party increase the supply of affordable rental units in Oshawa, Durham, and across this country? And I know you partially answered this earlier, but I know it's an important question for you.
It is, because I fall into the millennials or the Gen Z sector. What I really want to emphasize here is that when we're talking about providing startup funds for municipalities to build and renovate existing buildings into affordable unit houses, this means that people can have access to housing much faster than years from now. But something I also wanted to point out that actually came up on social media over the last 2 weeks is that our conservative candidate had actually taken personal information that he had access to in order to publicize that I still lived with my parents. And I think that's really interesting because, one, it's completely unprofessional, but two, we haven't built affordable housing in Oshawa in more than 20 years. So almost my entire lifetime. And so during that time, when I have had to move home because I was disabled in an accident in 2016, I relied on my parents, and I was very privileged and lucky to have that support system. But what I don't think our incumbent recognizes is that throughout that time, the failure to secure federal funds to build affordable housing is now resulting in a majority of folks in Oshawa not being homeowners, never thinking it's going to be within reach for them, and my entire age group now facing the fact that we might be renters for the majority of our life, if not all of it. And so I think that when we're talking about housing, we also have to talk about what has happened and what hasn't happened, and look at what our plans really mean for not only our generation, but the ones moving forward. If we're not keeping up with demand and we continue to only build $1 million plus homes that people can't afford, then we are going to continue to push people out of Oshawa. And as a university town and a college town, that doesn't seem to make sense. And so all in all, yes, we need access to affordable housing, but we also cannot be slandering and insulting people for their living situation when we have had or been in positions of power where we could have changed it.
Shailene, we're completely out of time, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to say, how can the good folks of Oshawa reach out to you if they want to assist with your campaign?
Thank you. Well, folks,
very short answer.
Yes, they can call us at 905-242-7350 or email us at shailene.panylo@ndp.ca, or come visit us downtown, 7 Simcoe Street South, downtown Oshawa.
Good. And I just want to say thank you, Shailene Panylo, New Democratic Party candidate for the Oshawa riding, for spending a few minutes informing the members of the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, the Durham Region Association of Realtors, and of course, the viewers of Rogers TV. Thank you, Shailene.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roger Balma, an Oshawa real estate broker, but more importantly, in this case, a proud member of both the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce and the Durham Region Association of Realtors, who are the hosts for today's question and answer time with Afroza Hossain, Liberal Party of Canada candidate for the Oshawa riding. Welcome, Afroza.
Oh, thank you so much, Rogers.
Are you
It's
ready?
a pleasure to be here.
We're glad to have you. Are you ready to answer some questions from the Oshawa Chamber and Durham Realtors?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So the first question is, how does your party intend to support first-time home buyers and new Canadians across Canada who are struggling to find housing that meets their needs?
Well, we need to support Canadians in their goal of becoming a homeowner and finding a home that's right for them. That's why our plan will help renters become owners, help young Canadians afford a down payment faster, and help them reduce the closing costs that come with purchasing a home. We'll introduce a rent-to-home owning program, create a new tax-free first home savings account, which amount would be like $40,000 under 40. And we can talk about it later on. A more flexible first-time home buyers incentive, choosing between the current shared equity approach or a loan that is repayable only at the time of sale. Reduce closing cost, reduce the price of mortgage insurance by 25%, build, preserve, or revitalize 1.4 million homes as part of Canada's first time ever national housing strategy launched by the Liberal in 2019. $4 billion in a new housing accelerated fund, help affordable housing providers acquire land and buildings to build and preserve more units, including co-op. Also, I want to mention multi-generational home renovation tax credit. So there is a 15% tax credit for up to $50,000, which will save up to $7,500.
Thank you. The second question comes to you from the Oshawa Chamber. As we come through COVID, retail and hospitality industries are having difficulty attracting, hiring staff. What would your party do to address this issue?
Recovery is underway in Canada, but recovery can't just be about getting back to the way things were before COVID-19. It should be about making things better. It's about making work fairer so that no one working full-time in Canada earns the wage that isn't livable. It's about equipping Canadians with the skills they want and need to be able to earn a good living. Continuing to expand the Canada Workers Benefit to support about 1 million additional Canadians in low-wage jobs, helping them return to work, and increasing benefits for Canada's most vulnerable. Continue to ensure that secondary earners, mostly women, can exclude up to $14,000 of their working income when income testing the Canada Workers Benefit so that families can receive up to $2,400. And in addition, I would also want to mention that Canada Recovery Hiring Program is extended until March 31st, 2022. So businesses can hire more workers and Canadians can get back on the job.
Thank you. Again, from your local Durham Realtors, the pandemic has forced governments to run large deficits. Canadians are concerned that these deficits will lead to future tax increases. Realtors and homeowners are especially concerned that a future federal government might be tempted to reduce or eliminate the capital gains exemption on personal residences. Will you commit today to protecting and defending the capital gains exemption for Canadian homeowners?
I unequivocally say yes. We will not be raising taxes on the primary residence. We'll stimulate economic growth and pay for our housing plan by taxing the wealthiest banks and insurance companies.
Very short, sweet answer. I appreciate that. Again, from the local chamber, small and medium enterprises have experienced much COVID-related hardship over the past 18 months. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to assist these businesses in their recovery?
Well, there are so many initiatives has been taken through our Liberal government, especially small businesses and hospitality Recovery is underway, such as we have issued a small business grant, we have issued extended small and medium-sized businesses from 300 million to 500 million, and from the time period to return to paid off the debt from 10 years to 15 years. So I think like that plan like that is been very helpful to a small and medium-sized businesses. And I would also add that introduce a tax credit for a small business to make it easier for them to invest in better ventilation, for zero interest loan to small and medium-sized businesses so that they can finance larger technology adoption projects, extend the Canada Recovery Hiring Program to March 31st, 2022, as I mentioned already, and provide Canada's hard-hit tourism industry with temporary wage and rent subsidy for up to 75% of their expenses to help them get through the winter. Give micro grants of up to $2,400 to smaller Main Street businesses. Keep moving forward with our plan to boost businesses' investment by allowing privately owned Canadian-controlled businesses to immediately expense up to $1.5 million of growth-enhancing investment, including in areas like software, patent, and machinery.
Perfect. As you may know, real estate is regulated at a provincial level in Canada. One of the federal election proposals that we have heard floated in the last few weeks was to end what some call blind bidding in real estate sales by banning this practice through the Criminal Code of Canada. Would you continue to support consumer choice in how Canadians sell their homes?
The desirability of Canadian homes is attracting profiteers, wealthy corporations, and foreign investors. This is leading to a real problem of underused and vacant housing, rampant speculation, and skyrocketing prices. Homes are for people, not for investors. A re-elected Liberal government would create a home buyer's bill of rights so that the process of buying a home is fair, open, and transparent. This includes banning blind bidding.
Thank you. The Pickering Airport has been a long outstanding issue, as you know, in Durham region. The ability to move goods and people through an international airport on the east side of the GTA would create growth in our city and our region's economy. Do you support an airport being built on the long-held Pickering federal lands?
I support agriculture and agritourism. I don't believe there has been a business case for an airport, and I believe KPMG did not support an airport.
Next question again comes from the Durham Realtors. Will your party continue to support homeownership initiatives such as the Home Buyers Plan and the First Time Home Buyers Initiative?
Absolutely. In 2019, the Liberal government is the one who introduced the First Time Home Buyers Incentive, an innovative new tool that allows middle-class families looking to buy their first home reduce the size of the mortgage they require and reduce their monthly housing cost. A re-elected government would make this more flexible and provide people the option of a shared equity approach or a repayable loan at the time of sale. Also, our Liberal government is the one who, in 2019, modernized the Home Buyers Plan by increasing the withdrawal limit to $35,000 to help with the down payment and cost associated with the purchase of a first home.
Thank you. From the chamber again, a question that I know is important to this community and other communities across Canada, and that is this. Oshawa, like many cities across Canada, has a growing opioid crisis, which when combined with COVID has really harmed already vulnerable members of our community. This seems especially evident in Oshawa's downtown. It is also hurting our business community. If elected, what will your party do to battle this growing crisis?
First of all, I must say the opioid overdose epidemic has worsened during the COVID-19 pandemic. To save life, we need a whole of a society approach to the opioid epidemic that addresses the main causes and support people who use drugs with the respect and dignity they deserve. The Liberals have invested more than $600 million to address the opioid crisis, including $182 million for the Substance and Addictions Program. But there is so much more we want to do. Introduce a comprehensive strategy to address problematic substance use to end the opioid crisis. Invest $25 million for public education to reduce the stigma associated with problematic substance crisis. Invest $500 million to support the provinces and territories in providing access to a full range of evidence-based treatment, recognizing that successful treatment is not determined by long-term abstinence. $500 million in support during the pandemic for Canadians experiencing mental health challenges, homelessness, or substance use. Support provinces and territories in creating standards for substance use treatment programs so that Canadians can access quality and evidence-based support when they need it most. Support the many lower risk and first-time offenders by reforming the criminal code to repeal relevant mandatory minimum penalties and requiring police and Crown prosecutors to consider diverting individuals out of the criminal justice system. Thank you.
Thank you, Afroza. The next question comes again from your local Durham realtors. Access to affordable rental housing is a growing concern, particularly for millennials and newcomers. How would your party increase the supply of affordable rental units in Oshawa, in Durham, and across this country?
Well, as I said earlier, the Liberal government is invested in helping Canadians meet their housing needs. That includes rental housing needs. Our government has helped more than 2 million Canadians find a place to call home through new builds, repairs, renovations, and rental subsidies. And we will do more, double our existing budget 2021 commitment to $600 million to support the conversion of empty office and retail space into market-based housing. We'll convert a space in the federal portfolio and commercial buildings, work with municipalities to create a fast-track system for permits to allow faster conversion of existing buildings, helping maintain the vibrancy of urban communities. Build more than 20,000 more units of new affordable rental housing and ensuring 130,000 units are revitalized from a state critical disrepair, an element ignored in the conservative plan. Stop renovation. Require landlords to disclose on their tax filing the rent they receive pre and post renovation, and implement a proportional surtax if the increase in rent is excessive. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, from the local chamber, the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, environmentally friendly transit would help reduce our carbon output in the GTA. Do you support the GO train expansion through East Oshawa and into Clarington?
Yes, I absolutely support the GO train expansion. Public transit development is critical for growing cities like Oshawa. Our platform is also committed to accelerating major public transit projects, supporting the switch to zero emission buses, and developing rural transit solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, from the chamber, the cost of running a business has escalated. This inflationary pressure is evident with the cost of gas, which of course has a bearing on distribution costs, building supplies, which raises construction costs, and many other components required for the operation of business. What will your party do to help business manage these escalating costs?
Well, as I said before, throughout the pandemic, we have helped hundreds of thousands of businesses keep the lights on and protected over 5 million jobs. And we will continue to have the backs of Canadian businesses. That's why we were committed to increase the maximum loan, 350,000 to 500,000, introduce a tax credit for a small business to make it easier for them to invest in ventilations, offer zero interest loan, provide Canada's hard-hit tourism industry with temporary wage and rent support of up to 75% of their expenses, give microgrants, keep moving forward with our plan to boost business investment by allowing privately owned Canadian-controlled businesses to immediately expense up to 1.5 million of growth enhancing investment, including in areas like software, patent, and machinery. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final question today, Afroza, is what are your thoughts on the timing of this federal election?
Well, Canadians are facing once-in-a-generation crisis, and they are rightfully wondering what the future will hold. The decision your government makes right now will define the future our kids grow up in and will believe Canadians deserve a say in shaping those decisions and the future. We believe that, I have a couple of more things. We believe that a government's most important responsibility is to keep Canadians safe and thriving, and we will continue to do just that.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's okay.
Afroza, if the folks in Oshawa want to contribute or assist in your campaign, how can they reach you?
Oh, that is a fantastic question. I am already loving it. They can email us info@afrozahossain.ca or call our office 905-723-5959. I am looking forward to hearing from you guys out there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Afroza Hossain, Liberal Party of Canada candidate for the Oshawa riding, for spending a few minutes to inform the members of the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, the Durham Region Association of Realtors, and of course the viewers of Rogers TV Durham. I also want to thank Nancy Shaw, the recently retired CEO, and Jason King, the freshly minted CEO of the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, Wendy Giroux, the CEO of the Durham Region Association of Realtors, for all helping to make this segment possible. And of course, Rogers TV Durham for your support and your coverage. Bye for now, Afroza. We wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Hey Oshawa, I'm Daryl Mackey, your PPC candidate, and this election, it's about your freedom. I was uninvited from the Oshawa debates without any reason given, but we all know the reason. The PPC is the only party against the vaccine passport. We believe you know best how to protect yourself and your children. We believe children should go to school unmasked, that small business is essential, and the elderly should never be left alone in their dying days. COVID should not be the only factor determining how we live our lives. Doctors can make recommendations, but real leaders understand there are lines that cannot be crossed. On September 22nd, many of your neighbors and family will no longer be able to work, eat at a restaurant, play hockey, or go to the movies unless they submit to experimental medications they're not comfortable with. We as Canadians have the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. They're guaranteed in our charter. Generations before us have sacrificed their lives so others around the world can enjoy the same freedoms and rights that we have. Now we're giving them away. So easy. Jagmeet Singh wants to know who is and who isn't vaxxed. This yellow star is my way of telling you it's none of your business. Justin Trudeau calls us those people. Well, I met one of those people, and her name is Lisa, and her son is recovering from cancer treatment. She had planned a celebration in November for her son with live bands and all his friends. And on September 22nd, it's no longer allowed. Well, Lisa, I can promise you we'll have a celebration for your son. Every tyranny has its excuse. This yellow star represents what history teaches could happen if we allow COVID measures to keep expanding? What would you have to see with your own two eyes to say COVID restrictions have gone too far? People in my own neighborhood have told me they'd be okay with watching their neighbor taken away in a cattle car. It wouldn't alarm them at all. It's never been more important to vote for your values. This election, the choice is clear. Vote PPC. It's about your freedom.